Hey, aloha, love tribe. Happy holidays. Welcome to Bitcoin for Peace. I have two amazing, powerful, inspirational women here with me today who represent the Bitcoin Film Festival. This is Kasha and Shayla. Nice to have you guys. Welcome.
Hi,
Oh,
Aloha. Nice to be
thank
here. Thank you.
Totally. So, we wanted to talk about why is it so important to get ahead of the narrative in um, any subject matter, and obviously we're going to talk about that here and why Bitcoin content and Bitcoin Film Fest is here. But first, I would love for you two to just introduce yourselves and kind of let everybody know who you are and what you're up to. We've got the open, what you're also a part of Open Dialogue Foundation. I'd really love everybody to get to know each of you.
Kasa, maybe?
um, thank you for inviting us. Very happy to be here and to have this perfect coda to this exciting 2023. And my name is Kasia. I'm part of the crew of the Bitcoin Film Fest. I'm also involved, as you, Valerie, kindly mentioned, with the Open Dialogue Foundation. I think very briefly about me. I used to be for years a libertarian activist, so fighting for personal freedom and economic freedom, but I was also always working in human rights area. And at some point, Bitcoin merged those two important spheres of my life, made it click. Um, and here I am, fighting for, on one hand, educating about Bitcoin with Bitcoin Film Fest, on the other hand, fighting for scaling Bitcoin for human rights at the Open Dialogue Foundation.
That's amazing. And Shayla, what about you? Let's do your background and then I'll start diving into some questions.
Yeah, so my background. So I like to call myself like a sharp mind with a creative soul. I think it kind of describes me best. So my long story short, yeah, corporate life for more than 10 years in marketing. Around 3 years ago during the whole pandemic, I just left it and I finally activated myself in the Bitcoin space. I started supporting different projects from writing, translating, creating content, drawing, designing, whatever. I also run a couple of my own small initiatives. Yeah, until I found Bitcoin Film Fest, my biggest love so far. And yeah, amazing team. Kasia is just an example. So I'm also trying to educate people because I'm a nomad, so I'm traveling a lot. So I also do some work offline. I try to do together with my husband. Yeah, and Bitcoin Film Fest, I'm supporting the team. I'm also trying to bring more people into this amazing space because it's still fresh, and there's a lot of incredible, actually, independent filmmakers that I want to be seen and heard. Yeah, so that's shortly about me.
I love it. And why do you two think that media, film, content is one of the best tools that we have to educate people? Obviously, film is a big, broad subject. It could be documentaries, it could be drama, it could be shorts, it could be any of it. So why do you guys, why are you focusing on this particular avenue?
Maybe I will start. Sorry, hopefully then Kasia will also add something. But we were very shortly before we went live speaking about it, right? Like cinema in general is something that we consume every day. It's like almost an integral part of our life these days, especially. But this is on the other hand also a very powerful medium because it's visual and it's very expressive, and you can like convey a lot of different messaging there. And people are like consuming a lot of movies or films or generally this whole space to feel relaxed, but also somehow to get motivated to learn different new things. But actually, what is very often happening, we don't realize that all these things that we see on a silver screen are not real, that they are actually making us more stressed and relaxed, that they are selling us wrong narratives or like completely wrong impression of the world. Like the society is full of different things that don't really exist, or even simply when you talk about documentaries, because this is so far the biggest part of the Bitcoin cinema, for example. So even when we compare like normal documentaries to those that are happening in the binema, as we call it, so Bitcoin and cinema. So the documentaries, many people, they watch them and then they think that they learn something new, right? That they explore some countries, that they learn about some cultures, but they don't, for example, know how many films and movies are created. There is always this executive producers or the production companies or some founders or some partners and stuff that they impact the stories that are told. So this mass production cinema, the mass cinema, is actually not really telling you a lot, even though you might have this feeling. And then as an opposite to all what I've said, Binema or Bitcoin Cinema and Bitcoin Film Fest as the heart of this thing for now is actually doing completely opposite. So it's teaching a lot. It can motivate, it can inspire, it can actually in the future and hopefully create a completely new realm with proper even like fiction movies, action movies, and so on and so forth that will be built on sound money and on truth. So it will bring this education, it will bring the entertainment, it will bring a lot of different fun, but really like the same as Bitcoin is like true money, the same this Bitcoin cinema with independent filmmakers will be like really the true content that we will consume and then let's say immerse into. So yeah, that's my part at least.
Have you noticed any I want to dive in. We lost Kasia. Kasia, where'd you go? She'll be back. Have you noticed anything as far as, you know, you were just mentioning about kind of the feelings that you feel, obviously, after you consume some content, that's dopamine, right? And so now with our brains that have been rewired because of social media and all these micro pieces of content, what do you think the efficacy, the effectiveness is of longer form content like films for people to get, their messaging? And do you think they're going to actually, do you find that people consume more longer form content and they're willing to be patient, or do you find that it's easy, more effective to have short form types of content, or a mixture?
I think it depends. It's a mixture, and of course, it also depends what this content is talking about, right? Like movies are actually very interesting phenomenon because, as I said, they are visual. So actually, that there is this, like images, sound, colors, story, the plot, everything all together that actually the human brain can consume very quickly and then soak kind of into this all these kind of effects and all these kind of things. Through the emotions, we can soak very smoothly, and actually we don't sometimes realize how long some specific content leaves, whether it's long or short. So that's also the beauty of, let's say, the video content. So probably what I guess you were also trying to say is like, our attention span with also so many different channels and so many different mediums, we are like happy to consume shorter form of content. But actually films and movies, even like 2 hours long, 3 hours long, if they are well done, I think they are also very attractive, and people are still consuming them a lot. The thing is like, how a particular story is told in some video content, and also how it can really trigger this emotion, how quickly and smoothly you can like soak in. It's very similar with reading books. We could compare it to like reading articles, reading tweets, or let's say like notes on Nostr or some other platforms, then reading articles, and then reading books, right? Books is the long form, then article will be like a mid form, and then all this kind of new forms of written content, what we do have with social media, is like a short form. So I think the video content is very similar in this sense, but it all depends what is told within the story. With the Bitcoin Cinema, for example, we do have a lot of like mid-length and short form as well, which is also probably huge advantage, because still a lot of this content, a lot of these films, let's say, are targeting pretty hard and complex topics. So maybe it's also like better that the producers, they are using like shorter forms, because it's just easier to digest for us as the audience. But on the other hand, when I think like what kind of struggle the producer has to tell a very complex story, then it's probably difficult thing for them.
Yay! I
reappeared. Sorry for this internet
Yay.
connection. It's capricious nature.
I love it. So, Shayla, I want to ask you, following up on that, what you were just saying, the concept of getting ahead of the narrative, what we were talking about before we hit live, go live here. How do you find that that's been hijacked with a lot of the organizations out there, or entities, powers that be, that don't want Bitcoin to succeed? like, because we know, like, whoever controls the narrative wins. And if we're always in a defensive stance with all this FUD and the nonsense that's out there, how can we stay ahead where truth is the shining light and the beacon that we're listening to, and not nonsense?
Nicely said, actually. So I think there are two things. So first of all, if you look at this biggest, let's say, commercial production companies, right? What is happening these days? They are having some different narratives that, because of different reasons, they are just trying to sell through the content they throw to us, right? Like, this is the first thing. Second thing is, within the normal, let's say, or standard film industry, there are a lot of dependencies, and who has the money also controls what is going to be produced. So it's not only like different, let's say, goals that I don't know, Disney is trying to sell because they have to, but it's also like who is a sponsor or like executive producer. They have also a lot to say. So it's also like who is paying for it, and then who will also get some profit from it. So like the commercial cinema, I don't want to talk about it too much. We do have a better cinema, the independent cinema, to talk about. But yeah, overall, the commercial cinema is very controlled and very manipulative, I think. So this is dangerous. On the other hand, yeah, we do have this completely new kind of realm, like independent cinema, which I think before, I don't want to be like too biased or like too strong with what I said, but I think before the Bitcoin Film Fest, actually, we didn't even realize, a lot of us, how many independent filmmakers they are, whether they are Bitcoiners or they are just, let's say, yellow-pilled people that they would like to make their video content independently, and they would also need something sound to make the founding for the film. So Bitcoin cinema in this sense is like, yeah, two areas, either, let's say, or three actually. It can be like Bitcoin themed content. It can be content that is just talking about sovereignty, about autonomy, about freedom, logical thinking, and so on and so forth. So everything that the commercial cinema is trying to remove. And then on the third aspect is like different films that would be funded using Bitcoin. So this is a completely new area that is already in there. We checked it. Like, I think Kasia can also say something about it. Like, we found it. We are also, because we are not only like creating, let's say, or we are not only organizers of the festival, but we also made this like platform that is integrating like filmmakers, producers, and cinema fans, and so on and so forth. So we just kind of like found that there is a niche, and this thing was already happening, let's say, a few years back, and it will get only stronger and better within time. And they're here, coming back to what you said about conveying message and like blocking some things and highlighting others. I think it's really super powerful, and it will be just broader and more attractive even within the time, using different forms, different plots, different content, getting more powerful. So yeah, it's just incredible, and I think it's very powerful as well for us as a consumers, let's say, the cinema fans.
Yeah, I think it's obviously a very scalable medium, to get our messages out there, and depending on the style of the content, it can be relating to different audiences and different subsectors. It's very, very powerful, and very, very needed. I think we need so much more Bitcoin content that's telling the truth. Kasia, I want to ask you about your human rights work, and why having, creative content and informative content is imperative to getting, policy shifts, and it's imperative to getting social mindset shifts and consciousness shifts. Can you talk about that a little?
Yeah, absolutely. So, by the way, I love the question you started with, Valerie. And you can approach it from so many different avenues. So, my first thought was really, even when we think about ourselves, our personal growth, like how we function as human beings, we interpret the world in terms of narrative, in terms of storytelling, right? This is largely how we comprehend the external world. So storytelling is something crucial to the way we function and exist in the world and understand it. On the other hand, I just wanted to add that being an activist, formerly a libertarian activist, we resorted to many means and tools trying to spread the idea of personal freedom and free markets. And yet, you know, especially with the Generation Y, how you can reach out to those people if not through art, if not through the means of art like cinema, most likely one of the most powerful means of art. We tried, you know, many things. You can have libraries full of Hayek's books, but how impactful they can be, right? So to me, it's important that through movies we can actually reach the audience. When it comes to my human rights work, I would say, you know, at the Open Dialogue, we are an advocacy group. So we maybe not so much use the cultural content. We do not have that means to show movies to decision makers we work with. But what we do is always gather a coalition of people who were either victims of some violations, or people who are experts in the field, and we just go to decision makers and tell them our real life stories, so they can actually relate to this. And this is actually very powerful, because I'm sorry, I will just ask you, do you hear me? Because I have some difficulties with the connection, and so sorry for this.
You sound great.
Wonderful. So even this actually, maybe the human rights work, this doesn't tie to movies itself, but it does tie to, again, to the importance of storytelling and narrative. So the way it works is really, you invite people who were either victims, for example, victims of anti-money laundering, people who were debunked, de-risked, so-called, and then experts in the field who can explain the mechanism, why did it happen. And we invite decision makers to meetings and show them real life stories. And this is by far more powerful than, for example, like industry lobbying, because they can relate to it. And we had plenty of examples of people who were quite hostile to Bitcoin, and were moved by our stories. We had, for example, you know, if I can just provide you one example, we had an important politician in a Western country in the EU. I cannot name his name, but he derived from a party that is very antagonistic towards Bitcoin, and he suffered the same problems as we did. So he was debunked because he was sending money to Turkey to support political prisoner. And when we came to him with our problems of also being debunked and so on, he immediately started sponsoring our resolution that is promoting Bitcoin. So that was unexpected to us, but that shows that, you know, we can find allies. It's just about, you know, making an emotional appeal oftentimes.
It really is an emotional appeal. And sadly, a lot of us humans, most of us humans, until we're actually the ones experiencing the pain of the broken system, we just go on at business as usual. That's normal, because we're all just trying to get by and survive and hopefully thrive if we're lucky. And so it's not until you get that sting of being debanked or having something happen to you that is a violation of your freedom, and, you know, that wants to take you down, before you say, oh, wow, we need a better solution. And this Bitcoin thing might help us a little bit here. So,
but you see, this is, I think, also what just came to my mind with your last sentence. So I fully agree that, yes, very often we don't think out of the box. We just perceive the world through our own lives and our own problems. But actually, I think that the Bitcoin cinema here can also make people more sensitive and aware of different topics. Because when we are having different documentaries, still usually talking the stories of countries that are less developed, or where people are really struggling with some problems, or on the other hand, the beautiful stories like the Dare to Dream, for example. It's one of the recent movies, right, from El Salvador. Very beautiful, completely opposite. It's telling a story how Salvador, like the El Zonte and then the community there, how they are growing, how they were developing, how even like these kids, that they can have finally dreams and then chase these dreams and then fight for it. So it's very important what you said. Yeah, especially I think in the Western world, Western culture, we do think that we might be against Bitcoin. We don't need it because we don't need to get rich. We don't have problems. It's not our thing, blah, 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 whatever, right? And then suddenly, if you are, for example, just getting into the stories of other countries, other cultures, and you see how it's empowering them or why it can change their future completely, maybe you will understand these stories differently. And then you will start getting into the Bitcoin, or you will have a different perspective on it as a tool, because it is still a tool, right? You will not see it as some kind of cult or religion, as some people see, or some craziness or whatever, but you will see it is a tool that is really changing lives of so many people. So yeah, this is beautiful also about the Bitcoin Film Fest, or actually the creators within the space.
Totally. And do you guys like?
I will just add.
Oh, sorry. Go
Oh,
ahead.
I will just add that what excites me, because I think Shelley already mentioned it, and we know it. Like it's very early for Bitcoin cinema, right? It's very early for Binama. It's earlier than for Bitcoin itself, probably, most likely. And so it's a growing scene. We are very happy to be part of, and to also like connect the filmmakers and everyone in the zone and help it grow. This is one of the reasons we are there for. We are there, but so most, as Shelley mentioned, most of those movies are documentaries. So I am exuberant. I'm so excited to see more fiction movies, maybe some comedies.
Cool.
But the truth is, a few new fiction projects are ongoing. And this is new, and this occurred, over the time we are active. So the scene is growing, and that is exciting.
It's super exciting. Who's funding all these things? Is it just all from Bitcoiners? Is it from companies? Like, where are the creators? Because I know when we started the Cyber Opera, it was like, oh boy, this is going to be a lot more expensive than we thought. And it's a bear market, so we're going to put this little sucker on the shelf. How are people, obviously getting funded for the arts is a huge, climb for some people, because it's not, you're not necessarily getting immediate ROI. It's a risk, and so that's what we were told a lot. How are folks, overcoming that and getting themselves funded?
It's hard to, I think, speak for everyone, because every case is different and every creation is also different, and it will require different budgets.
Right.
I think what we might also see in the future is more of this animated content, because it's still, let's say, cheaper to produce, but it can be also very engaging and different. So I'm personally looking for it a lot as well, not just cartoons, but different animated films. But like, what I can say, how I understand the current, let's say, funding for the Bitcoin themed films. So usually it's like owned money of people who are producing it. This is the first thing. Second, depending on the topic, they can be also founded by some projects and companies that are somehow involved. I think the mining industry is pretty interesting. The recent documentary of Alana, Stranded, it's a great one. Actually, just if I can spoil, it will most probably get premiered in April next year. So yes, everyone be ready for the second main edition of the Bitcoin Film Fest, actually together with the Halving Party, the biggest in Europe. And most probably we will also premiere Stranded there. But mining. So it's some kind of niche topic, right? A lot of companies maybe to be mentioned, to support this kind of niche that they can also fund and sponsor. And otherwise, it's like crowdfunding. I think the Lightning Network in this sense helped a lot. It actually broke a completely new barrier that not only for filmmakers, but different creators. So there are different ways how I think creators can collect funds. Hopefully in the near future, Bitcoin Film Fest will also play a stronger role in here. Currently, mostly I would say these films are self-funded, and then the rest is like a little bit of companies, a little bit of like support of the audience, a little bit of like different platforms, even like Gazer, that is in smaller or bigger way also helping with funding. So this is how I see this mix. I don't know, Kasia.
I will just add something that relates to it, which is we are not legacy cinema industry. We are Binama, and that means we also include other forms. So, and you can see it at Bitcoin Film Fest, at our projections at different conferences, and at our original event in Warsaw. We also include shorts. We also include YouTubers. This is an important channel, and excluding it, it's just unthinkable to me. So by film we actually mean a lot of different forms that are visual arts.
That's super
Yeah.
cool. Let me ask you guys this, because this is something, again, we were trying to think about this with the cyber opera concept was, we wanted all of the artists, like, and anybody who was contributing to the project, whether you're a graphic designer, whether you're doing admin and project management, whether you're doing the song or visuals or whatever, or writer, our goal was to utilize the Bitcoin, network and having lightning splits somehow in perpetuity, so that creators and everybody who put their thumbprint on this giant yummy masterpiece in perpetuity can get paid as we grow. And, if we're licensing the songs or performing or whatever it is, so we were wanting to have kind of like how podcasting 2.0 is working with lightning split. So have you guys seen any filmmakers do utilize that concept?
Good question. Interesting. I don't feel very confident answering it because nothing really comes to my mind as an example. But I might be wrong. Maybe somebody is utilizing it. It's just like we are not aware, like us now here. But I think more of these things can happen. Lightning is enabling one thing. Second is not through protocol, right? And
Yeah.
I'm not talking about it as social media. Absolutely not. It's just like a super tiny aspect. Just like today, for example, I joined this Albi's community call, and there were actually a couple of different tools presented. How splitting bills or funding something, or actually Flash, it's called. I think if I can already say that, it's upcoming in New Year. Also about streaming and subscription. So I think the more of these things will come, and I really, really think it will help the filmmakers a lot. I actually, to be honest, personally hope that the realm of the music, film, writers, performers as well will come together. Because when you think about the current filmmaking, there is like music involved, right? Fashion, there is like so many different areas. And actually, all these areas already exist in the Bitcoin culture. So I think it will be also, in theory, easier to find somebody who will put more money on the table sponsoring it if there are, let's say, 5, 6, 10 different projects from the realm of the Bitcoin culture all together involved in one specific title as a film. So I'm really personally looking for that moment that some music creators and fashion designers and writers and actors and stuff, they come all together and then they will be involved in one film. So this is like my personal wish. But yeah, answering your question, I'm not sure if somebody is already doing it.
Cool. What, Kasia, do you know anybody using the Lightning Network doing splits just yet? I'm just
No,
curious.
I wish, but I think. But thanks for this question, and we have the channels to at least try to investigate it and discover it, because that's a good one to discover.
Well, I think it'd be cool though, because for all of us, and I love that you were on the Albi call, and Get Mash is out there doing some stuff with content that's on on different websites. You can do different reveals and splits and stuff, and so we're right there. You know what I mean? We're right there on the cusp of the transformation for monetizing content in a brand new way, right? So it's not just podcasting 2.0, it's content 2.0, right? And so how can we help creators of all types, have those splits, right? Like these earrings were printed and given to us in Los Angeles at one of the women's conferences, and they're like 3D printed by Crypto Cloaks and another company. And so I was like, well, what if we all did it, and then you guys printed and you help design, and then I help distribute, and we'll just split everything 3 ways forever, kind of thing. So I like the concept of, because then you don't, and then if it's going through Lightning and it's going to your wallets directly, you're not going, hey, it's the end of the month, can I have some of my royalty checks, which is what obviously content creators have to do at all levels, and hope that they can trust their provider of who's holding the funds, and so to me, I think this is not that the whole funding will come through this, but if even a segment of it incentivizes people to promote the projects, because when everybody's winning and getting a little slice, then they're like, yeah, come check out the film, I made a dress for it, or I did the props or
Yeah,
I
I
did the
actually,
lighting, and it's just like, woohoo.
yeah.
I think it adds more incentive for people to get excited
Yeah,
to
it's
promote it.
very exciting, and I think it's also very powerful because it can work from many different ways. I hopefully I mentioned it, not just I thought about it, but yeah, I think the current problem with the current like mass cinema, the mainstream cinema is like, as yeah, I think I mentioned it, right? Like what can be told and cannot be told in some specific story, right? And it's also very heavily based on funding. Who is funding it? Who is putting the money to make it happen? Who is deciding what can be told in which way, and so on and so forth. So if we kind of like break this barrier and we are more independent, more decentralized in the way that the content is created, there is not this middleman. And it's also audience that will be deciding, because even when you think about it like on a smaller scale, if I like it, I can subscribe, I can support, I can contribute somehow. So it's opening a completely new area. Second, I think, and it's closely related to Bitcoin, is open source. So a lot of these artistic projects are actually heading towards open source. So in theory, let's say the earrings that you said, somebody designed them. Maybe the design is just ready there. This person just contributed. And anyway, if more people would use it, I'm sure that as people, after some time, even more of them being honest, they would try to help the person who gave it open source. So there is like really a lot that can happen thanks to Bitcoin, and also thanks to the Bitcoin culture, or actually the culture, the values that Bitcoin is kind of promoting. But when it comes to the filmmaking, I think, yeah, we can see better content, better quality, because this, I founded it, so I decide what you can show and what you can talk about versus not. So independent filmmaking will be easier and broader thanks to like the funding through Bitcoin, for example, not like some big companies that pay and they decide.
Total. Are you finding like, so you guys know Gigi, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And so he's got something where, he's got a Telegram group, and you can, pay, and be like a Patreon. So it's like a Patreon model, like how Geyser would do it, but it's subscription, right? And then he's got a private group, and he talks to everybody, and like he's working on his next book, and every month he'll share, what he's been up to and feedback. And then, based on whatever level of contribution you're at, you're either going to be mentioned in the book or whatever it is, right? And so people get excited about that. Are you, again, coming back to the lightning thing too, are you finding that the content creators, the filmmakers, are doing anything of that nature, where they're having like a, hey, for this tier of contribution, you get to be whatever, and then having like communities around the development of their projects?
Well, we one of our partners is Geyser, we are very grateful for that support. We ourselves are on Geyser. You can find us, the Bitcoin Film Fest and European Halving Party there, and quite a few of actors in the space are trying to raise money through Geyser, offering those different levels of sponsorship and trying to engage with the community and in this way, in this decentralized, beautiful manner, escape any middlemen. Shelley, do you want to add something?
Yeah. I mean,
our cooperation with
I actually
Geyser?
had the same thing in my mind, like Geyser, yeah. And it's like, I wouldn't say like a lot of filmmakers, they are giving some kind of physical incentives to people who are supporting, but Geyser is a very good example of giving this awards for, let's say, or rewards actually, for when you do support a project. So in different stage of the project, when you are contributing as an individual, yes, different creators, they can give some smaller or bigger like physical or virtual things. But I think if I'm not mistaken, there were at least still a year or 2 years ago bigger Bitcoin future upcoming films that are looking for sponsors, and they were promising to mention the name of the company, or like also help promoting it later when the movie is released. So I think more of such examples can happen in the future. So it's not only like incentivizing the audience, like what it's possible through Geyser, but also when the movie will be released, maybe some companies can get more, let's say, incentive or awards if they sponsored the movie based on the different offer or the idea of the producing team. So yeah, and it will happen more and more in the future.
Yeah, it's fun. I think people love to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And if they get to be a part of something creative that's meaningful, that aligns with their values and, their missions in life, oh, that's way better. Um, now I see your gorgeous face better. Um, it makes you feel good, and I think, the messaging that we want in our media, is truth, connection, possibility, empowerment, hope. What's the vision for the future that we can step into via our actions? And so when people who are disconnected and we're still feeling the impacts of COVID, people got in the habit of working from home and not being out with each other. They got in the habit of, they've lost some friends. And so even though we're back on track and we don't have the masks on and all that stuff, I think people's consciousness and their mentality have shifted a little bit, and I think it's left a little bit of a hole in our soul,
And think about kids.
Oh my gosh.
Because this is like the generation that is actually growing up. I'm talking about even like babies now. That is a generation that is growing up in theory into the reality that you are just avoiding human beings completely. I'm not saying that technology is wrong. Absolutely not. Everything has the, advantages, disadvantages, dark side, and so on. But really in 10 years, 15, 20 years, in theory, there can be human beings, adults, that they don't want to have any exposure, any contact with live creature. They are not craving nature, that they are not willing to, I don't know, help somebody, because it has so many different consequences. In this sense, I also see how the Bitcoin cinema can help, or let's say independent filmmakers. First of all, because there are already some cartoons targeting kids. So first of all, they are talking about topics that you will never learn at the normal school, very important topics. Yeah. Second, they can also present all these good values, the values that the modern, let's say, society is escaping from, that they are not popular, so-called anymore. So yeah, there is hope. So Bitcoin is hope, and the Bitcoin cinema is also hope. Yeah,
it's definitely hope. Have you guys, it's obviously when we're in our little vertical of Bitcoin lovers and Bitcoiners, it's easy. We're all cheerleaders. Yay, rah, rah. Are you finding traction and success, like with any of the filmmakers? I know Alana's got her, push out there with energy people and the environmentalists and stuff. So I think it's great that she's approaching her film from not just, let's just do another cheerleading for Bitcoin, but it's like she's really trying to get into these other industries. Are you seeing some of the filmmakers take their work to other sectors, and show it, so that they're not just, obviously Bitcoin Film Festival, we get to come and like consolidate our energy, get excited, and be ready, to keep creating and have enthusiasm and support and connection. But then we have to go out into the normie world and get the message out there to avoid all of this propaganda and all the negative, stuff that's going on.
So we have a few filmmakers who decided to, or whose movies, whose work was shown outside of just the Bitcoin zone. So The Mystery of Satoshi is one great example that was produced with the Arte studio production. We are also in touch, for example, with Paul Kemp. I'm not sure whether you heard about him. Paul Kemp is a Canadian director and award-winning director. He also, for example, one of his many movies is the one on Jordan Peterson. Maybe you have seen the one on Jordan Peterson, and he's right now working on his movie about Satoshi. And as far as we know, this will be also broadcasted in public television and so on. So we have figures who are showing their pieces of art outside of just the Bitcoin zone and Bitcoin conferences, which is wonderful. On the other hand, we are doing our best to discover who are the Bitcoiners among the legacy Hollywood industry.
Which we know that is happening. Yeah, we actually organized one of the Bitcoin Film Club. It's called. It's like our attempt to make like the live streaming or some kind of podcasting about films. And I think it was September or October, right? We had a guest. So whoever will go now to our social media or subscribe to our newsletter will be always updated about these things. But we had a guy working in Hollywood, and he actually confirmed that there are quite many, maybe not like maximalists, but Bitcoiners. There is just a matter of time when they will maybe go to the other side, to the other side of the force. But to what Kasia said, yeah, that it's what I can add additionally here. It's, I think, not only like some of the films are going out of the Bitcoin conferences or like our even the film festival about Bitcoin. We need to remember that many of this content is actually not directly talking about Bitcoin. That's why I sometimes call it like Bitcoin themed films, or they are just films done by Bitcoiners, or as we call within our team, idea friendly. So just like promoting, let's say, logical thinking, sovereignty, autonomy, financial independence. So they are not necessary. We shouldn't think of it as a content that is only promoting Bitcoin and, oh yeah, Bitcoin is great. No, not necessary. It's just like a very decent video content, whether a short, long, Kasia also mentioned before, like YouTubers, vlogs, that are either Bitcoiners or they are just trying to bring the reality of the world, and then try to present some important topics that you will never see in the like mainstream cinema, that you will not read in mainstream books, articles, and so on and so forth. So it's not only like films and movies and short video about Bitcoin, not necessary and not only. And
I will just
sorry, continue. Yeah.
Oh yeah, I was just, when it comes to those crossovers and reaching outside of a bubble, which is particularly important to me, because going back again to my experience of being this libertarian activist, like it's super important for me that we make sure that we don't just find ourselves at some point pilgrimaging from one conferences to another and preaching to the crowd that is already like our crowd and convinced and so on, and we don't grow. So, for example, I was super happy about the fact that our first edition, and we are just after the first edition of Bitcoin Film Fest in Warsaw this year in April, and it was conducted in partnership with FilmWeb. Most of our foreign audience doesn't know FilmWeb, but FilmWeb is a Polish portal, Polish database of movies, which happens to be the second largest movie database in the whole world. Okay, and then other partner of our was Kinoteka, which is this beautiful cinema located in the Palace of Science and Culture, which is this Stalinist building. This was gifted to Poland. This was gifted, let's say, by Stalin to Poland, and it has Kinoteka, the cinema inside, and Kinoteka was our partner. FilmWeb was our partner. So we started also making connection in the, let's say, movie scene or the artsy scene in Poland, because they are excited about this, thinking about Bitcoin as a curious, phenomenon, but a revolution in the making, a technological something new. So this is very helpful to me as well.
I love it. And what do you think is, like, obviously we've got a lot of FUD out there, the fear, uncertainty, and doubt, for those who don't know that. With trying to take down Bitcoin from different angles, whether it's from the environmental position, whether it's from the criminals use Bitcoin, and all the things. What are you finding? Because for me, the reason I became hardcore Bitcoiner is because when I started learning about the human rights use case for Bitcoin, I liked, of course, number go up. That was exciting at first, but that was pretty short-lived as soon as I found out that what is money and how are people using it to escape authoritarian regimes, et cetera, et cetera. How are they using a permissionless system to transfer their wealth and across borders in seconds for pennies? That was exciting to me. And so what are you finding with the content that you're creating is there something that people are like the most interested in? Number go up? Are they interested in freedom and permissionless and censorship resistant? Are they interested in the human rights part? Are they interested in cross-border transactions, with this? Are they interested in the inflation protection? Obviously, every case is different, but is there a general, theme that people are are gravitating toward and saying, oh, wow, this content impacted me because it showed me how Bitcoin is a tool, as a solution for X problem?
Complex answer to this question. Very interesting question, but yeah, probably a lot could have been centered at, because again, it depends.
It depends.
All this content that is currently even produced and that we already know, having also our own database that is going to be produced soon in the future, is talking because of different reasons about different topics, different angles, different stories. I would say that so far, I might be mistaken, but so far this technical aspect of Bitcoin is the least interesting story to be told and the least interesting story to be produced. Probably because it's also, very technical, not that, let's so to say, sexy, right? And one way or another, you need to learn it in practice. What I would see now currently as something popular, and I guess also popular from the production perspective and the consumer perspective, like the audience, the cinema fans, is just this incredible power of Bitcoin, like empowering people. So it's a little bit of the human rights, a little bit of this hope future. So something that we are very often missing in the current reality in the world. That also, this is another narrative, that there are so many, especially since this pandemic COVID, that people are just constantly stressed. Your work, the whole fiat culture is just making you stressed, chasing things and stuff. So you are forgetting like the good feelings, good vibes. You are not very hopeful, let's say. So I would say that these aspects of Bitcoin that are shown in different films and video content is something that the audience might find most attractive, most appealing, and that the producers of the films are also using quite often. And there is a lot of different documentaries also, on the other hand, showing this advancement, let's say, of different cultures, or how Bitcoin is helping different cultures. So Guatemala, actually, maybe Kasia, you can add something. We can get more into the politics, and you are very close to the producers of this Guatemala election. But Guatemala, Salvador, Colombia, Africa, many countries that are developing, or that they were not privileged enough, or the communities they're privileged enough because of the current system, and how Bitcoin is changing it. So this is another very interesting thing that people might like.
So because as we talked, because the scene is so nascent, most of movies are still documentaries. So, and a lot of them are going into the explaining of what Bitcoin is and how does it work. What, I don't know, how what is the financial reality we live in, and what Bitcoin has to offer as an alternative. I would love to see more movies that actually use human rights, real life examples. And I think we will see more of that, not to mention the fact that, there are so many things so really magical things about Bitcoin and around Bitcoin that are a movie story in themselves, like even the history of Satoshi Nakamoto. Like this is all like a script already there to have a fiction movie about it. But as Shela mentioned, like just recently we had a premiere. We had a privilege. We were very happy to host a premiere at Lugano Conference of Immutable Democracy, which is a beautiful, very short and very well told documentary about how Bitcoin also fixes democracy, because Bitcoin helped to safeguard election process in Guatemala, and this is yet another new case of Bitcoin utilization for protecting human rights. So I highly recommend.
Yeah. I don't know, Valerie, have you watched it, or have you heard
I haven't seen Immutable Democracy yet, but I'm trying to understand how did this work in Guatemala with the elections, and for people to get, like, that's a big deal.
Mm-hmm.
People don't understand how that's working. And I know there's another project out there too. My brain is dying, forgetting it, but that's another thing about elections. And so that, to me, I was like, what? You can help have fair and transparent elections with the Bitcoin blockchain?
Mm-hmm.
What? That's exciting, especially for so many of us, but in our country, even where we're concerned about the corruption, and, are the elections fair and transparent?
Mm-hmm.
So
This is super.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, I cut you
No,
off. But
no, you're good.
this is extremely important in the world of polarized sides fighting each other, and one side and another trying to steal the narrative, and election deniers and so what. But to me personally, it's also important because on my professional front, on in the advocacy, in the human rights advocacy for Bitcoin, I can go to decision makers and show them Bitcoin being utilized for other purposes. So it's usually associated with either financial speculation or consumption of energy and so on. And here is this yet another very valuable example. So that's super exciting.
And what's been the response? Like, have you brought this to the policymakers' attention that this is a possible solution for transparent elections?
Yeah, we had a chance to already present it to some decision makers at the Council of Europe, as well as in Bundestag. But we are very early with this advocacy, and we hope to push for more. We also nominated our friends from Guatemala for Copenhagen Democracy Award. So we nominated this solution for a very prestigious award in human rights words, and we are hoping they will get it.
Wow, that's amazing. Is there anything like that we can do or the audience can do to help support moving these initiatives forward?
The timestamp solution that was utilized in Guatemala. Well, I think all of us can just try to be active on in the spaces we work on, whether it's Twitter or any other channel, and just try to spread the message about it. As per the award itself, there is a jury, so I don't think they can be. There is no like public vote.
But I think this is also the power in the long term, at least, all of us. So I would engage and ask everyone who is watching it, who will watch this podcast and any future, just consume more of this content. Like really, by watching the content that independent filmmakers are creating, whatever the topic, by watching it, sharing your feedback, sharing this content with others, talking about it, even sometimes being a little bit critical and showing the direction, getting involved. It's you are becoming this kind of like ambassador, and also helping these people. You are motivating them, showing that they don't do this work for nothing. And also, if you are engaging more with it, maybe your surrounding that is not necessary yet people interested in Bitcoin will notice it. So naturally, over time, it will get stronger, and you will really support any of this content created by being there, doing it, commenting, watching, consuming, sharing, and so on. So yeah, I would like more and more people to do that. So sometimes instead of spending another hours on Netflix, please, people, skip it, take a good book, listen to the good podcast, and watch some of the independent films.
That sounds amazing. Have you, I thought I heard you guys say you were doing a Bitcoin film club. Like, have you guys done anything where we have like a book club and we can have like a regular screening, because like right now I can go put up a whole, video and we can watch it together and then everybody can talk about it after or something like that. Is that something you guys have done or want to do? I'll help.
Actually, then you should come really to the Bitcoin Film Fest as a festival. So yeah, Kasia mentioned that we were in Lugano. So Lugano is one of these road shows, as I can say, or as we call it, like mini festivals. So the main edition of the film festival, that is like few days, is happened just once in Warsaw, the capital of Poland, in this Palace of Culture, as Kasia mentioned. And the second main edition will happen in April, together with the Helping Party. But actually, we got invited to many different conferences around the world, I can say, because, and probably you saw a mini tiny example of it, Valerie, yourself, in Salvador during the Adopting Bitcoin. Then it was in Lugano. Then it was also Lisbon. Next year we are in Madeira as well. So we are not organizing yet any kind of like public screenings online, because we want to really make this super extra experience. It is an experience during the festival. And it's not like only people are just able to watch content, but there is usually this engagement with the producers of the content or people working around this content. So you have Q&A sessions, live panels. Sometimes it's also not like screening the whole film. And probably this will be more of a direction in the future. So not like watching the whole film, but like watching, for example, behind the scenes, or just learning how it was produced, what were the challenges, getting some presentation, and again getting involved with a crew that was producing it. So we are not yet doing any online screenings. I think Alana recently did with the Stranded, and I think it might be a future in some case. But I believe, for at least for now, with us as the BeatCon Film Fest, the festivals, because it's experience and it's also different. Again, to promote this like come together, gather together life, it's something we are investing most of our time and effort, right?
Yeah, in person is definitely the best. I know a lot of us want to be able to get to go to all these things for sure. And obviously online is like second best.
Although, when it comes to online world, I must say that again, back to advocacy for human rights, it really changed everything for us because before the pandemic, we had to have a lot of funds, and that's always an issue in the world of like NGOs, to travel to those parliaments to talk to those decision makers. Whereas now we just jump on Zoom, and it's more convenient to us and cheaper. Yeah. And to them as well. So that actually made out, at least for us, like it made things much easier.
That's good. I know it's changed how we operate. That's for sure.
Yeah,
do you guys want to talk about the European Halving Party and share with the audience who can't see what's on the screen, like what's going on? What is this European Halving Party? Let everybody know.
Kasia?
Absolutely. So this April, from 19 to 21, we will be exuberant. If you join us in Warsaw for BeatCoin Film Fest, the second full edition, which will be joined by European Halving Party. So European Halving Party, we're expecting at those two events, we're expecting 500 people or so. This is an event prepared with plebs, for plebs, and it's full of. It's not your typical. I would say it's not your typical BeatCoin conference because it has all of this artistic content. It has games. One of the exciting things for me is that we are preparing this halving games concept. So because we will continue celebrating halving every 4 years. So we want to start this new tradition of halving games. So join us and play with us and have some quality time in Warsaw in April.
That's
it's probably like really one of the top events of 2024. So of course the US is hosting a lot of great BeatCoin events. Europe as well. So we can almost every month of the year go some great conference. But honestly, speaking from what I already know as being a team member and how we think, and also the quality that the many friends that will help us to organize it. So because this event will be organized by BeatCon Film Fest, but also a couple of our friends and sponsors, of course. So from what I can say, yes, it's going to be like top event of 2001, of the top 3, maybe 2024, and definitely like biggest European pleb gathering, right? So of course, halving is important. I'm sure that some smaller, bigger groups will be like meeting over a beer or something. But if you want to get through fun and experience and also watch some movies and network and stuff and like do this whole thing in a bigger group, definitely it's a place to be. Yeah.
It's going to be amazing. And what can they do in addition to going to this event if they come to the European Halving Party? Like, are there some activities? Are you guys going to have side events and things like that?
Definitely. I mean, yeah. So what Kasia mentioned is a tradition of halving games. This is one thing. You can think of it like a BeatCoin halving Olympics. This is one thing. We are actually, yes. So let's see.
With half marathon, which is 21 kilometers, right?
Whoa! Oh my gosh.
Right. And also running BeatCoin. So there are so many interesting things about the half marathon. But yeah, there will be a lot of games. Actually, what we want to do, we want to involve, because it's a European pleb, as Kasia said, European pleb gathering, a party or event done for pleb, with pleb, as we call it, all together. So we want this European communities, like more organized communities, to be some kind of leading or to be co-creating this whole thing, right? So a lot of aspects of the halving party will be actually co-created by local communities. We have already a couple of them confirmed. We are still looking for more. So whoever is interested, just send us a DM on Telegram or Twitter or Nostr, or direct email if you feel like. So there will be live music, there will be semi-disco, live disco, there will be a lot of sites, smaller events, some competitions, some what else, screenings, a lot of things. So from whatever you can imagine as a mini conference to whatever as you can imagine as a huge party is going to happen there.
That's going to be so much fun. I wish I could come over and go. I have other, as long as as of now, I'm supposed to be doing something else in the middle of the ocean. So, but I want to be with you guys. So, but this sounds amazing. Okay. So everybody can find you guys at bitcoinfilmfest.com and then the European, and then / European Halving Party, HALVING party. But go to bitcoinfilmfest.com and check everything out. Do you have any final things that y'all would like to tell perhaps a budding content creator, a new filmmaker, who's somebody who's like, oh, I don't know if I could do this and I really want to, but I don't know. Any words of encouragement?
Well, we are inviting everyone from cinema enthusiasts, Bitcoin enthusiasts, to also filmmakers. And when it comes to filmmakers in particular, what my heart always melts once we actually, and we had quite a few examples of actually connecting people. So we had, through our chats, we had people who couldn't find a cameraman in whatever, South Africa, or needed a footage from another country. And the beauty also of the Bitcoin community is just to share and help each other. And so if you are thinking of starting your own project, just reach out to us. We hope we can help. And if you're just an enthusiast of cinema and or Bitcoin and or together, we have much to offer.
I love it. That feels good. What about you, Shala?
Yeah, I can only sign under what just Kasia said, but I would just invite everyone who has a little bit of this creative part in them, but also the sharpness of mind. And so any kind of, even if you are not interested in films, but if you are working on something creative in the Bitcoin space, or you would like to, or you think you have no talent, but you would like to just see what's happening in there, just join our Telegram, follow us on Twitter, follow a lot of this amazing creators, check Geyser from time to time, because maybe after some time you will get inspired yourself. There is everyone who has some kind of a talent. You just need to find it. And it doesn't have to be any spectacular, right? And we are still talking about a normal work. So there can be volunteers, there can be even people who are giving feedback, there can be people who are just let's say making comments on something or giving some ideas themselves. So don't be, let's say, shy. Just do it. Don't think, don't wait for the permission, just do it. And I think the Bitcoin cinema, yes, and altogether this independent filmmakers is a huge space that definitely needs everyone, and it's a space that nobody is getting to be bored. So just join, check, be there.
I love it. It's both of such good, inclusive, welcoming advice. I remember not this year, but the year before, when I was in Miami and Greg Foss was up on stage talking about, just use your voice. Doesn't matter. Everybody's got something to contribute, whatever your path and your passion is, use it. Bitcoin needs all of us. And so there's room for everybody at the drawing board. And I think it's really nice that you guys have that energy too. And I mean, that's what's nice. It creates this ethos, this space of inclusion, and we can all do this together. And the more that we're working together and thriving, we all win, and so it's such a great, it applies to all these, subsectors of Bitcoin.
Absolutely. And I will just add, I know we are short on time, but, we are just a group of volunteers, really, who just use our free time to spread the message, to be helpful, to help this grow. And so if you feel like joining our wonderful team, feel very much invited. We are welcoming you.
I love it. You two are the best. I'm so grateful to know you. And I feel like we're just scratching the surface of all of this right now. And so many, many more things to come, I think, in the future. But everybody who's listening to this and you can't see the screen, get yourself over to bitcoinfilmfest.com. You can also follow these guys at Filmfest BTC on Twitter, formerly Twitter X now. But get your tickets, go check everything out in Europe's biggest Bitcoin party in April. That's going to be so much fun, you guys. I got FOMO already.
Yeah, it's really pity you cannot come because you are like one of those few people that is always energizing me a lot. Like now with the three of us, I feel like poof, I would just go out and dance on the street, even though it's like pretty late, you know.
Let's do it. Well, maybe the next year we'll do it. I'd love to come out the following year. And help put some fun events together for, music and dancing and fun and interactive things like, well,
Yeah,
we're not going anywhere. We're just getting started.
Cyberspace Opera, because this is such an incredible project. You have so many great people there. I mean, like really fingers and even toes. If you can cross your toes, I'm just doing it right now. Imagine. So fingers crossed for that. Yeah.
I think so. It's funny. I after this, I have an interview with Tomer, who's my co-writer with the opera, and so we're going to talk about that again too. And it's time. I think we're ready to get ourselves back on track with the opera, and I think it's neat that, because obviously we took a lot of artistic license, and it is, fiction-ish. But we'll see. So I'm excited to see how this next year comes out for all of our content and all of the art that's going to get created on behalf of Satoshi. Thank you.
Yeah, best Christmas present.
Yeah, it's really good. Well, I want to thank you two again very much for being here. And, you guys listening, please make sure you go follow them at Filmfest BTC and go to bitcoinfilmfest.com, and you guys can get everything and follow Kasia at I'm going to say it at KSZCZYPSKA.
Need to change it.
And you can also go follow Shayla at AZA_21M, the number 21M. But you guys will see that. I'll put all this stuff in the show notes so you guys can make sure you follow all your fellow creators. And, I'm really excited and grateful to be on the journey with you ladies. And so until next time, everybody, peace, love, and warm aloha. And thanks for tuning in to Bitcoin for Peace. Yay.
Thank you very, very much.
Thanks,
pleasure.
ladies.
Great rest of the day.